Hi everyone. So yesterday I was busy having breakfast, downstairs in the room, and across the way from my table I saw on the chair a book on the tarot. Now my wife's interested in the tarot, and she in fact is very interested in astrology, and it's always fascinated me how astrology could possibly work and make predictions. And so I was thinking a lot about that. I've always been fascinated by the oddities in life and the strange things. And I've written a paper on the power of prayer, that even prayer can work. And that's been done in a hospital. The question of the placebo response, all these kinds of phenomena which don't fit into our Western model of understanding reality. I have a book in front of me now. It's called Real Magic. Now, it's written by Dean Radin. He's a PhD, very highly regarded scientist, and writing a book called Real Magic. Isn't that strange? And then there is a quote from Brian Josephson, a PhD, a Nobel laureate in physics. And this is what he says about the book. A convincing case for the reality and significance of magic. Now, the book is a paperback and anybody can read it. He's got some lovely chapter headings, Merlin class magicians, towards the science of magic. Scientific evidence for magic. Of course, Dean Radin has looked at things like he's looked at things like the power of prayer, but he's also looked at the ability to be able to collect information, transmit information, telepathy, random numbers generating ideas and things like that. That's what he's done the science around. So he's highly regarded and he's done serious work. And I love it that he's called the book Real Magic, because these kinds of phenomena that don't fit into the conventional scientific model feel a little bit like magic. So how do we think about it? Is it chance? And that's what the conventional model, or Western scientific model says, that these things are just chance. It can happen. Doesn't fit in with what other scientists say, because, when you think about the world and the way it has developed, the fact that you've got an eye, for example, and that eye has nerves connected to the brain, how did it all come together by chance? Doesn't quite seem like that. But nevertheless, that's the standard Western understanding that these things are chance. Sigmund Freud, not Freud, I'm talking about Jung. Jung was the one who developed the word synchronicity. And what he meant by synchronicity was that some kind of internal thing happening to you reaches out and meets something in the outer world in a most astonishing way. So an example would be when you're thinking of someone that you haven't seen for a long time, and then the phone goes, and there's that person at the other end of the phone. Or you need a certain amount of money to get started with something, maybe 5,000 Rand, and the next day something happens and the 5,000 Rand appears. That's called synchronicity. Is that chance again? Jung said it was not chance. It was a play of something much deeper going on over there, that these two events came together, something that you'd been thinking about and something that happens in the outer world. And then there is a third possibility, that there is some kind of underlying intelligence at work. Now, it's interesting. I've watched Sangomas throw the bones and give you a reading. In fact, I think I did go once to a Sangoma for a reading, and it was always amazing how precise it was. So is that chance again? Is it synchronicity, or is there an underlying intelligence at work over here? So these things are really interesting, and the most interesting part of it is that science is catching up with these ideas now and making sense of it all. And how do they make sense of it all? Well, according to quantum science, if you go deep enough and you keep breaking matter apart, you come to atoms, and then you break atoms apart, and you come to particles. And particles are certainly not matter. They're kind of energy, you could call it, which appears and disappears. And it disappears into what they call the quantum potential, quantum soup. And what's been recognized now is that that quantum space that things go into and come out of is also another name for consciousness. Now, I know people get really upset about consciousness because, of course, we don't understand it very much. We all think we're conscious, and we call ourselves conscious being, but we don't really know what we're talking about. But quantum science is starting to make sense of it all. So consciousness is supposed to be there in the background. It's interesting because it also has other names like the Akashic Records, for example, which is also another name for this kind of consciousness. But we all understand it really because most people have computers. And we know that a lot of that information is in the clouds. And I'm fascinated by AI now, because now that I go into AI, and just by asking AI a question, within seconds the answer comes back. And it comes back with such a wide spectrum of understanding and information. Where's that? Where is that source of that? Yeah, in the clouds. Yeah, okay. I'm okay with saying it's in the clouds. Where's consciousness? Yeah. So there is something here that we need to understand, that what's in the clouds is what all that information, of course, that's there. But then what about consciousness? I mean, when I talk about having intuitive insights, well, where's that coming from? Intuitive insights somehow, I mean, Einstein himself was very respectful of his intuitive insights, often spoke about it. So great scientists they didn't have AI always. Remember that. They were using their connection to the clouds, as it were, where consciousness is just another name, where something deeper, some kind of intelligence is operating from. So behind all of us is consciousness. Consciousness is like the quantum potential. What is the quantum potential? It's a potential out of which everything comes. So consciousness is also just like a quantum potential. Everything comes out of the quantum potential. So chance, I'm not so happy with the idea of chance. It's not possible. There's too much complexity here, much too much complexity, and an interconnection of things that are truly remarkable. I mean, I breathe out carbon dioxide, the trees take it up, breathe out oxygen. I need the oxygen. Chance? Not likely. There is synchronicity. Yeah, I can go with synchronicity, but behind synchronicity for me is some greater intelligence that's there, some kind of consciousness that out of which everything is held in that consciousness. And then it becomes easy to understand that our lives are, our thinking mind is too limited to understand any of it, can't understand really the nature of complexity. But I am a conscious being, and you are a conscious being. And out of that consciousness, everything arises, and everything is held. Everything is holy. Everything is sacred, because that consciousness itself is sacred. And your computer connected to the clouds, as it were, that's different. That's just information that's stored there. But consciousness is different. It's a different beast altogether. And we all are sitting and soaked in consciousness. Consciousness is not inside me, I'm inside consciousness. Think about it, because it's lovely to go into that space and to understand what is sitting behind all this astonishing amazing life that we have. Enjoy.